Hello, today I'd like to talk to you about a domestic asset protection trust. There is certain information which you may want to know prior to considering whether a domestic asset protection trust will be beneficial to you and protect your assets. Domestic asset trusts can only be formed in certain states. We've chosen Wyoming because of its laws, its longevity in Wyoming, and various other factors which makes Wyoming an ideal state to create a asset protection trust. If you live in another state, that does not prohibit you from forming a Wyoming asset protection trust. So if you live in New York and want to protect your assets, you will follow the procedures set forth in Wyoming, which will allow you to create these asset protection trusts. There are other states. This video is a PowerPoint presentation and hopefully will answer all of your questions. If you desire to create an asset protection trust, there is a program in our website which allows you to do this. It's very straightforward, asks very little information because of the information necessary to create these trusts is not public, and it only requires certain basic information. Information you provide is confidential, is not known to the general public.
This is a video presented by Express Legal Forms, LLC, explaining the provisions of the Wyoming Asset Protection Trust and associated companies. Overview. The Wyoming Asset Protection Trust system has certain requirements and documents. These are the trust instrument, the qualified trustee which satisfies a Wyoming law, which will be an LLC owned and controlled by you, and an investment advisor, which is another LLC owned and controlled by you. The trust agreement. This is the first of the documents which must be created. It is a standard trust in many respects, except it must contain a clause which makes it irrevocable. However, you can veto any distribution from the trust. You can receive money from the trustee within limits. You can use the principal of the trust, and you can serve as an investment advisor to the trust. The document is not made public. It is for your eyes only. The trustee. The trustee by statute must be authorized by Wyoming law. This is accomplished by forming a limited liability company in the state of Wyoming. You can control this limited liability company. Thus you are, for all practical purposes, the trustee of your own trust. You can also choose to have someone else be the trustee. The investment advisor. To further protect the trust, the law provides that the trustee must follow the directions of the investment advisor. The investment advisor is another Wyoming limited liability company which you form. Again, you control the investment advisor limited liability company. Other documents which must be prepared. So far you have a trust agreement and 2 limited liability companies. Therefore you must also have an operating agreements for each of the limited liability companies. Finally, you must execute a qualified transfer affidavit. What is the qualified transfer affidavit? This is an affidavit which provides that the affidavit is given in compliance with Wyoming statutes section 410-523 to create a valid qualified spendthrift trust. That affidavit has full right, the defiant has full right, title, and authority to transfer the property to the qualified spendthrift trust. The transfer of the property to the qualified spendthrift trust will not render the settlor insolvent, in other words, you. The settlor does not intend to defraud any creditors by transferring the property to the qualified spendthrift trust. Further requirements. The settler does not have any pending or threatened court actions against him except those court actions identified in the affidavit. The settler is not involved in any administrative proceedings except for those administrative proceedings identified in this affidavit. That at the time of the transfer of the property to the qualified trust, the settler is not in default of a child support obligation by more than 30 days, and the settler does not contemplate the filing for relief under the provision of the Federal Bankruptcy Code. Further, that the property transferred to the qualified spendthrift trust was not derived from any unlawful activities, and the settler has and shall maintain personal liability insurance of at least $1 million or shall provide coverage equal to the fair market value of the settler's total qualified transfers to the spendthrift trust, whichever is less. A resident agent. Since you have two Wyoming limited liability companies, you need to have a company resident agent in Wyoming. A resident agent is a responsible third party who is registered in Wyoming and who is designated to receive service of process, notices, correspondence from the Secretary of State, and other official government notifications, usually tax forms and notice of lawsuits on behalf of the LLC. This is normal practice regarding all companies formed in states where you do not live. There are many companies which provide the services at very low cost, usually around $100. Powers of the trustee. The trust document provides for numerous powers of the trustee. These include the power to purchase, acquire, hold, maintain real and personal property, to make distributions from the trust, to hire employees or agents, and the powers are very extensive and cover all actions which are necessary. The powers of the investment advisor. The investment advisor's decisions are binding on the trustee. In other words, since you control the investment advisor, your decisions are binding. It has a sole and absolute authority regarding what to purchase, retain, borrow, vote, stock, form, or continue the operation of a business, sell, manage the assets. The list is all inclusive. Other provisions of the trust. The trust document contains many standard provisions such as the compensation of the trustee, successor trustees, payment of death taxes, invasion of principal, allocation of principal and income, the spendthrift provision, accounting, and governing law. Included in the package is a letter to the Wyoming Secretary of State to register your limited liability companies, information on acquiring a resident agent, and a sample quitclaim deed so you can transfer your real property to the trust, a qualified transfer affidavit. How to create a Wyoming Domestic Asset Protection Trust and related documents. If you desire to create a Wyoming Domestic Asset Protection Trust and the related companies, then go to www.expresslegalforms.com and open the video section for asset protection. There's another video which explains what is needed and allows you to safely and securely enter the information directly on the screen. This information will allow Express Legal Forms to produce all the documents necessary. Thank you for watching.